Black Cat is yet another iconic character from the Spider-Man comics. She presents Spider-Man with the rockstar-esque temptation that comes with being a superhero, while she also aids him in battle, and sometimes even there for him emotionally in some versions. She's become a very memorable character, no matter what version we see. However, we saw a very different version of Felicia Hardy in her one and only movie appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where she was played by Felicity Jones. Now, she was meant to return, not only for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Sinister Six movie, but also in her own Black Cat solo movie. So, what if it happened? Felicia Hardy had already appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise in TASM 2, where she was portrayed by Felicity Jones. Apparently this was actually a very last-minute decision, as she was originally going to just be a normal secretary character with no real vital importance to the story, but they later changed their minds. And I do think that's pretty obvious considering how few scenes she had, and how many of her scenes were left on the cutting room floor. Sadly, Felicity Jones seemingly would not have returned to the role of Black Cat due to her newfound commitments on Star Wars Rogue One, where she played the main character Jyn Erso. Now, Rogue One, it should be noted, was initially planned to be a duology, or possibly even a trilogy, and as such, she seemingly wouldn't have been able to commit herself to a multi-film franchise like The Amazing Spider-Man at the same time as Star Wars, and rumors suggested that her replacement could have possibly been Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. Now, despite Jones supposedly dropping out of the part, plans for Black Cat would not end there. She was meant to appear once again in both The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Sinister Six, where she would continue her romance storyline with Harry Osborn, going against the usual formula, which has Felicia as a romantic foil for Spider-Man himself. She likely would have become a member of the Sinister Six, though there are conflicting reports that say that she would have not become Black Cat for at least 3 to 4 years into her time in the series. This report suggests that she would have simply been Felicia Hardy until her own solo movie, where she would become Black Cat. In her own movie, we would have seen more of her backstory and learned about how her father, Walter Hardy, was one of the world's greatest cat burglars, which allowed Felicia to be raised in luxury. Now, in this timeline, she would have learned of her father's criminal actions and left the Hardy family to go her own way as a secretary at Oscorp Industries, before her attraction for Harry brings her into the life of crime that she tried so hard to avoid. Her father actually would have appeared in this movie, and possibly would have been played by action movie legend Kurt Russell, which sounds awesome already. Now, she also would have had a sister named Amanda Hardy, who would have been played by Rebecca Ferguson. Spider-Man himself was seemingly also planned to appear, as well as Harry Osborn, of course. Venom also possibly would have appeared, played by either Channing Tatum or Finn Wittrock. The main villain would have either been Tombstone, possibly played by Denzel Washington, or Kingpin, who I haven't been able to find any possible actors for. Now, Kingpin likely in this movie would have killed her father, and Felicia would have become Black Cat to seek vengeance. This movie would have been directed by Rupert Wyatt, the man behind Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and it would have been produced by Matt Tolmick, Avi Arad, Amy Pascal, Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy, Simon Kinberg, and Mark Webb. Yes, 7 producers, I'm not kidding. And it also would have been written by Lisa Joy, as well as Ashley Edward Miller, Jane Goldman, and Zach Stens. However, seemingly the plans for the Black Cat solo movie set in the Amazing Spider-Man universe were ultimately canned for the same reason that all the other ones were, because of a lack of confidence from Sony, who after TASM 2 disappointed at the box office and received a visceral critical lashing, they decided to pull the plug on the TASM universe and all that it entailed. So what do I think of a Black Cat solo movie set in the Amazing Spider-Man universe? Honestly, it sounds like a pretty good idea. I actually think this movie probably would have been really good, in the right hands, of course. And this movie had a lot of hands all over it. 7 producers. Ooh, that's a little bit much, I'm not gonna lie. Especially because one of them is Simon Kinberg, who I've heard is good with some other things, but, you know, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Need I say more? Now, as far as the lead goes, I think Emilia Clarke would have done a great job, but I really do wish it would have been Felicity Jones, sorry. I think Felicity Jones really got the shaft in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Most of her scenes got cut out, and they were good scenes, too, that really were going to build up the attraction between her and Harry, and that was bad. Like, if you're going to build up a romance between characters, don't cut out all the integral scenes. Like, they cut out a scene where she notices his hands are shaking, and she looks genuinely concerned about him. And then they cut out a later scene where she's actually the first person to see him as the Green Goblin, and she actually tries to stay by his side side, but he's like, no, get out of here, So, like, they took out some really important scenes that would have really, made her stand out more, in my opinion. Of course, that doesn't excuse how little scenes she had in the first place. She really should have been in the movie a lot more, deleted scenes or not. Her role was way too small, in my opinion, for an actress of her caliber, and I would have really liked to see her come back and really, do something more prominent in The Amazing Spider-Man. Like, I would have loved to see her relationship with Harry Osborn grow and develop. I would have loved to see the kind of relationship she would have with her father, whether it would be the storyline I predicted, where she would resent her father for his criminal history, or whether or not she would have embraced it to become, Black Cat, the jewel thief, because in the comics, usually she becomes Black Cat, to continue the family name, you know what I mean? So I would have been interested to see which one of those we would have seen, whether we would have seen the one that like reluctantly becomes Black Cat or the one that willingly becomes it in order to continue, what her father did. Also, I think a good old-fashioned revenge story would have been really cool. I think Kingpin, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish Kingpin had been in a TASM movie before Black Cat. I think that he would have been better served being a main Spider-Man villain first, and then appeared later in a Black Cat movie. I think a Black Cat movie is just a weird place to debut a character that big. Not saying that Black Cat's not gonna be a big enough movie for that, because like I'm sure they could have made it work, but I just think it would have made a little more sense to do Kingpin in one of the TASM movies and then, put him in Black Cat, just to build him up a little bit more. The same goes for Tombstone. I also feel like Tombstone, he just might be too big of a villain for a movie like this. I'm sorry, but I could be wrong, maybe they could have made it work. I mean, Denzel Washington as Tombstone, oof, that's really good casting in my opinion. As far as seeing Spider-Man and Venom in this movie goes, no. I think that would have taken the focus away. Like, she's already dating the Green Goblin, and she apparently would have been fighting a villain on the caliber of Kingpin or Tombstone. I just think that Spider-Man and Venom being in it too would have really taken the focus away and made it more of a Spider-Man or Venom movie instead of a Black Cat movie, and I just think that this movie would have suffered from their presence. Also, I think this movie would have been really nice to see just because of how male-dominated superhero movies honestly were in the 2010s. Like, the only real female-led superhero movies we got were like, Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, and they were good movies, Wonder Woman especially, but I would have really liked to see, a Black Cat movie as well. And with an actress of Felicity Jones' caliber in the lead role, I think that this movie could have been something really good. It had some good names involved, some not so good names involved, and it had some really good actors involved as well. And, I just think that this movie could have been really good. This is probably the TASM movie I'm the most sad didn't get made, honestly. It's between this and Sinister Six. I really think this movie had so much potential, and I'm so glad to hear Sony has not given up on the idea of a Black Cat movie. And Felicity Jones says that she still really wants to play Black Cat, and honestly, I hope they get her, because she would be a really good Black Cat. And I honestly think she deserves a do-over after, how little time she was given to make the part work in TASM 2. I just think that she deserves it. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments down below, would you have liked to see a Felicity Jones / Emilia Clarke-led Black Cat movie set in the Amazing Spider-Man universe? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Also, give me more what-if recommendations in the comments down below, whether that's about Spider-Man, Marvel, or whatever the hell else you can think of. Make sure to follow my new Instagram account, which is Rinzler_Productions, which I'll leave a link to in the description down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends on all your various social media platforms, and I'll see all of you in the next video.